WEFUNK. We funk.
But to start off with a couple of the major, major cross-genre pop festivals that are going to be making major headlines this year over the summer, and I guess we'll take them in chronological order. All right. Starting in the spring in India, where Coachella usually kind of kicks off the whole festival season, as we do talk about on the show, I guess, a little bit, where the warmer weather places, your Floridas, your Californias, they'll start getting us into festival season. Well, the rest of the world is still warming up a little bit. So in the Coachella Valley there in India, in the end of April, we will have the very oddly formatted Coachella, where it's back-to-back weekends with the same lineups every night, which is just an absolutely weird festival arrangement whole setup. However, a pretty sick lineup on this year's bill, I guess, really headlined by the first of the major reunion shows for Rage, like I just was talking about. But the Rage reunion, I guess, really for all intents and purposes, kicks off on the major, world spotlight at Coachella, where Rage Against the Machine will headline, as well Frank Ocean, Travis Scott tapped to headline other nights, Tom York from Radiohead, Lana Del Rey, King Gizzard and the Lizard Wizard, as well on the bill over the varying weekends at Coachella, right, in the middle of April. So big news there with Rage Against the Machine coming back, all right. I guess from there we go to another really, really solid festival lineup announcement at the Shaky Knees Festival, which over the last couple years has put down some really, really solid lineups, as Atlanta is just really emerging as a festival capital, putting on at this point several different festivals in their Centennial Park or Olympic Park or whatever their main park is called, that hosts these festivals that I've heard such great things. I guess even this year on back-to-back weeks there is the Sweetwater 420 Fest, which I'll break down in my Jam Festival little thing later, but that's become one of the real year in, year out, most solid lineups at the 420 Fest. This year, no different. However, the week before, a great festival lineup for the Shaky Knees Fest. All right, I guess headliners there, but the aforementioned Strokes, one of their first, comeback tour. One of their first, comeback show announcements has been for the Shaky Knees Fest. Another one of the real great, 2000s alt rock acts, but the Black Keys slated for a headlining spot at Shaky Knees. The Smashing Pumpkins, all right, as well as you got, Portugal, as well as you got Portugal the Man and the Yeah Yeah Yeahs, Brittany Howard, Phoebe Bridgers, both on the bill. The Royal Blood, one of their comeback shows for the Royal Blood. You have Joan Jett, Angels and Airways, Drive-By Truckers, lots of good acts on the bill at the Shaky Knees Festival the first weekend in May, all right? So a couple of great festivals there. I guess at the same time as all of that's going on as well, towards the end of April and the beginning of May, is the couple of weeks of Jazz Fest as well, one of the real great musical traditions on the calendar every year, as Jazz Fest is just such a great musical experience with all of the collaborative shows and just all of the local stuff that's going down in Jazz Fest. A lot of that will be announced later on throughout the upcoming months as individual bands release their own tours and plans and stuff like that. But the official Jazz Fest grounds lineup this year, a couple of major headliners. As first of all, you got Dead & Co. making a big Jazz Fest headlining spot, as well The Who, So, I mean, you're getting Denko and the Who headlining at Jazz Fest, at the Jazz Fest grounds, the Lumineers, as well as the Black Crowes, scheduled at Jazz Fest, as well as Wu-Tang featuring the Soul Rebels as well. All right. So epic start to Jazz Fest lineup there as well. You got the Lumineers, the Yvette Brothers, Maggie Rogers on the bill for Jazz Fest, as well as, of course, like I mentioned, all your NOLA faves, your Anders Osborns, and your George Porters, and everybody else. I believe the Crescent City Kids, that sick band with Metziker and Skerrick, I believe, with shows already scheduled, and many more to be announced as we, I'm sure, over the, we will definitely at some point over the year give a full Jazz Fest breakdown, around April or May. But I guess the early headliners looking pretty fun. After, like I mentioned, after the Rolling Stones mucked it all up last year. Hopefully, you know Dead and Co. will respect the rules of the greatest music festival of all time. But and you imagine the Who will play nice as well, as I believe the Who have headlined Jazz Fest before. I feel, although not going to confirm that, but a good time always had in Jazz Fest there at the beginning of May. All right, I guess a couple other festivals in May at the end of May, but I guess on the same weekend as well at the end of May. But two of the real impressive lineups for any of these pop rock fests going down this year, especially in Boston. All right, for the Boston Calling Fest, but I guess on the other side of the country, while the Boston Calling Fest is going on in Napa Valley, Bottle Rock taking place, which over the last couple years as well has gained a super strong reputation for great lineups. But Bottle Rock this year headlined by the Chili Peppers, Dave Matthews Band, as well as Stevie Nicks, who as well is on a comeback of sorts, but Stevie Nicks headlining, so a couple of great headliners over the weekend there. As well throughout the weekend, you're going to get Anderson .Paak, the Yvette Brothers, Turquoise with the big Bottle Rock slot, Trampled by Turtles, Maggie Rogers on the bill for Bottle Rock as well. So great lineup going down in Napa in the weekend of the 22nd through the 24th. Whereas across the country, in Boston that same weekend, perhaps the standout festival lineup of all festival lineup announcements so far this year. But perhaps the Boston Calling Fest might really have the best action going down. All right, as when you just look at the nightly headliners, and this is of course like a 90s rock fest. But the headliners for the weekend, you get the Foo Fighters, the Chili Peppers, and a Rage Against the Machine Saturday night headlining fest. All right, so great headliners as well throughout. I guess to give you the dailies, but Friday headlined by the Foo Fighters as well. Brittany Howard, Jason Isbell, Sharon Van Eeden, all on the bill. Saturday headlined by Rage Against the Machine. You also got Run the Jewels on the bill, as well as a bunch of other good acts on Saturday. Sunday, however, a great day, as well as you get the Chili Peppers, the 1975, Phoebe Bridgers, Dino Jr., all on the bill on Sunday. So I guess 90s headliners alone, but Foo Fighters, the Chili Peppers, and Rage Against the Machine, real fun headliners there. But as well with Brittany Howard and Jason Isbell, 1975, just some really great Phoebe Bridgers, just some really great acts all weekend at the Boston Calling Fest. But you're getting to see the Chili Peppers. You're getting to see the Rage reunion and the Chili Peppers with John Frusciante on back-to-back nights at the Boston Calling Fest. So super, and if you were doing if you were paying attention, by the way, you might have heard the Chili Peppers mentioned twice. as very busy weekend for the Chili Peppers, who headline Bottle Rock in Napa Valley on Friday and the Boston Calling Fest, of course, in Beantown on Sunday. Right? So, busy weekend for the Chili Peppers to end May. All right. The next week, I guess to kick off June, is the annual Gov Ball spot. All right. The early June weekend, first weekend of June usually for Gov Ball. This weekend, this year, Gov Ball, Tame Impala, Stevie Nicks, and Miley Cyrus, all with big headlining bills, as well Flume, Vampire Weekend, Portugal the Man, Missy and Solange both on the bill, as well as Krugman, big huge spot for Krugman on the bill at Gov Ball. And a big spot for Krugman, much like Tame Impala. Perhaps, who this year headlining, of course, Gov Ball. First time I saw Tame Impala was at Gov Ball 2015, and they were way down on the list, performing in the middle of the afternoon at Gov Ball. It was back-to-back on the main stage at like 3 o'clock on a Sunday, but Chance the Rapper and Tame Impala both way down the bill. A couple of years later, Tame Impala are the Gov Ball headliners, and a similar fate may very well be the trend for Krugman, who, like I've talked about, but last year gained so much momentum, I guess featured by the Trey sit-in at Lock-In, but Krugman sold out shows at Central Park, just became a red-hot touring after the success of their, 2018 Con Todo El Mundo album last year. They became a touring force this year, starting off hot with the album with Leon Bridges, the collaborative album with Leon Bridges on vocals with Krugman, who are of course an instrumental band, but so Krugman on their way to major things with a major festival spot here for at Gov Ball for them. So very interesting to see, and very interesting, like I mentioned, the 5 years for Tame Impala that has seen them go from Sunday afternoon nobodies to Friday night headliners in just a couple of years for Tame Impala. So we will see their headlining spot at Gov Ball, I guess. Next up on the list, another one of the real major, just all around, just great festival lineups going down at Bonnaroo, which, of course, started really more in the jam, with, heavy jam roots, where it really started more as a jam festival. Over the years, became really one of the leading cross-genre pop festivals, and was really the, the leading festival for a while there, it seemed, for a couple of years, the, just cross-genre pop fest. Getting back, it seems, the last couple of years, a little bit back to their, jammy, festy roots. And this year, a good, blend of cross-genre pop, as well as some jam acts on the list, as headliners include, I guess, Tame Impala, the aforementioned, but going from Gov Ball one weekend in June, the next week they'll be at Bonnaroo, as well as Tool, who were one of the big stories last year with their comeback tour. For Tool continues in 2020 with the headlining spot at Bonnaroo, as well as Primus, as well as of course Oysterhead, the Trey Anastasio and Les Claypool project from the early 2000s. Getting reignited in 2020. So Oysterhead on the bill, as well as Primus on the bill. So double doses of Les Claypool. I guess to give you a nightly for Bonnaroo. Friday headlined by Tool, as well on the bill. Bass Nectar, 1975. Young the Giant. Brittany Howard and Pigeons. Pigeons playing ping pong, as well as Turquoise, actually. Pigeons and Turquoise, two of the real, hot funk bands on the very popular contemporary funk scene. But Turquoise and Pigeons playing ping pong both Friday night, Bonnaroo. Turquoise doing a Talking Heads tribute, as a matter of fact. All right, as well as Primus on Friday. Friday you get the Primus. Saturday, however, you get yourself some Oysterhead with the Trey and Les Claypool Oysterhead Project headlining Saturday, as well. Tenacious D, Jason Isbell, King Gizzard the Lizard Wizard, Billy Strings and Marcus King, as well as Nelly performing Country Grammar. So major acts going down on Saturday. Sunday headlined by Tame Impala, as well as Vampire Weekend on Sunday, as well. Leon Bridges, Lana Del Rey, and Grace Porter. Flogging Molly. Flogging Molly, as well. Green Sky Bluegrass, Bill Frisell, great jazz guitarist Bill Frisell. So really just all in all, cross genres with some jam on top. But really just a great all-around lineup every day of the week at this year's Bonnaroo Fest, which, like I said, really did peak and spike as one of the premier pop genre fests. Kanye headlining, just became really, the premier cross-genre fest. It seems in the last couple years getting back a little bit more to the jammy roots with a, of course, major pop rock kind of feel. But a lot of the great, up-and-coming emerging jam scene favorites on the bill at this year's Bonnaroo. So really excited for that. Big spots for them, and a great festival lineup there for Bonnaroo. Right, but a couple of the other big ones. But later on in June, the Firefly Fest as well has become a real. I think they actually took last year off, if I recall, though, a hiatus, if I recall, in 2019. Back at it for the Firefly Fest in Delaware, so not terribly far from New York City. Good, easy to get to from Philly, decent from DC. So a good location for the Firefly Fest has really led that becoming a very, a premier cross-genre pop fest. This year, major names and headlining spots, as that is another one of the confirmed Rage Against the Machine headlining appearances. All right, so Rage Against the Machine one night. On the other side of the spectrum, Billie Eilish. Although probably not a lot of crossover fans. Billie Eilish taking the world by storm 30 years after Rage Against the Machine did. So really coming at you with two absolute huge names, potentially in a lot of ways the two biggest tours of 2020 are Rage for the rockers and Billie Eilish for the rockers' children's. As well on the list, Blink-182, Cage the Elephant, Diplo, Run the Jewels, Big Boy, Rainbow Kitchen Surprise, a big spot at Firefly Fest, Maggie Rogers as well on Firefly Fest. So lots of great acts booked all day, all weekend long for Firefly Fest, with, of course, like I mentioned, two absolutely enormous, but yet contrasting styles in headlining spots at Firefly Fest, and I guess those are really the big major pop rock, cross-genre pop rock fests lineup announcements as of now. As I guess the Newport Folk Fest has slowly started releasing some names, but no, not the full official lineup there. Lollapalooza, no announcement, so more to come. But those being the real, big cross-genre pop fests.
Big F! WEFUNK. We funk.